Pyramids of Mars is the third serial of the 13th season of the British science fiction television series Doctor Who, which was first broadcast in 4 weekly parts from October 25 to November 15, 1975. Plot: in Egypt in 1911, Marcus Scarman excavates a pyramid and finds the door to the burial chamber is inscribed with the Eye of Horus. Scarman's Egyptian assistants panic and flee, leaving the professor to enter the chamber alone. As he holds a light up to see the tomb, he is blasted by a green ray. The TARDIS is forced out of its flight path as Sarah sees an apparition of a jackal-like face in the console room. The Doctor lands the TARDIS in the Scarman family home in England, which is filled with Egyptian artifacts. Discovered by the butler, they are told that the house has been taken over by a mysterious Egyptian by the name of Ibrahim Namin. In another part of the Priory, Namin is confronted by Dr. Warlock, a friend of Professor Scarman. Namin sends a robot disguised to look like a mummy after them. The three make their way to a hunting lodge used by Lawrence Scarman, Professor Scarman's brother. Lawrence is an amateur scientist whose Marconiscope has intercepted a signal from Mars. The Doctor decodes the signal as Bawir Sutekh. He explains that Sutekh is the last of a powerful alien race called the Osirians. He was pursued across the galaxy by his brother Horus, and was finally defeated on Earth. Namin and the mummies greet the arrival of Sutekh's servant who travels to the Priory via a space-time tunnel, the portal of which is disguised as an upright sarcophagus. The servant burns Namin to death, and is revealed to be Marcus Scarman. Sutekh orders him to secure the perimeter of the estate and construct an Osirian war missile. After Scarman and the robots leave, the Doctor, Sarah and Lawrence Scarman enter. The Doctor disrupts the tunnel using the TARDIS key. Hearing Scarman return, Lawrence hides the three of them in a priest hole. In another part of the estate, a poacher, Clements, finds a mummy ensnared in a man-trap. He is prevented from escaping the estate by a deflection barrier. Meanwhile, Marcus Scarman finds Warlock and kills him. The Doctor retrieves Namin's ring from his corpse and he and Sarah hide in the TARDIS to avoid detection. When Sarah suggests they should just leave, the Doctor moves the TARDIS forward to 1980, revealing it to be a blasted wasteland. They must return to 1911 and stop Sutekh or the future will be lost. Back in 1911 the Doctor makes a jamming unit that will stop Sutekh's servants, Marcus Scarman included. Lawrence attempts to stop the Doctor from activating the device. The robots find and kill Clements and overrun the hunting lodge. Sarah, using the ring they took from Namin, orders the robots to return to control. The Doctor decides to blow up the partially assembled rocket. Lawrence suggests using blasting gelignite, which Clements kept in his hut. The Doctor and Sarah leave to obtain the gelignite, ordering Lawrence to strip the bindings from a deactivated robot. Marcus finds Lawrence, who reminds his brother of their childhood in order to revive his humanity. The conditioning proves too strong, and Marcus kills Lawrence. The Doctor and Sarah detonate the explosives, but Sutekh telepathically suppresses the explosion. The Doctor uses the space-time tunnel to travel to and distract Sutekh, allowing the rocket to be destroyed but trapping himself. Sutekh interrogates the Doctor and discovers he is a Time Lord. He locates the TARDIS and decides to use it to transport Scarman to Mars in order to deactivate the Eye of Horus, which is holding him prisoner. Sutekh subjects the Doctor to mind control and returns him to the Priory. He orders Scarman to bring a robot and Sarah into the TARDIS to travel to the Pyramid of Mars. On their arrival, Sutekh orders Scarman to dispose of the Doctor and the robot strangles him. Scarman leaves the first chamber beneath the pyramid. The Doctor regains consciousness, his respiratory bypass system having allowed him to avoid death. They set off in search of Scarman through a series of chambers which are dependent upon solving logical and philosophical problems. Reaching the central chamber first, Scarman destroys the eye, then falls to the floor and decays to dust. The Doctor realizes that Sutekh will not be released for 2 minutes, that being the time that radio signals take to travel from Mars to Earth. Sarah and the Doctor return to the Priory and use a module from the TARDIS to move the other end of the tunnel to a point 10,000 years in the future, ensuring Sutekh will not escape until he dies of old age. The Doctor and Sarah leave in the TARDIS as the Priory is consumed in flames. Continuity Sarah wears a dress which the Doctor says belonged to Victoria. She remarks that the puzzles are similar to those in the Exilon City and Death to the Daleks, although she personally never entered the city. Production: the story as originally written by Louis Greifer was considered unworkable. As Greifer was unavailable to do rewrites, the scripts were completely rewritten by Robert Holmes. The pseudonym used on transmission was Stephen Harris. Pyramids of Mars contributes to one of the contradictions in the Doctor Who universe, the unit dating controversy. The exterior scenes were shot on the Stargroves estate in Hampshire, which was owned by Mick Jagger at the time. The same location would be used during the filming of Image of the Fendahl. The new TARDIS console, which debuted in the preceding story Planet of Evil, does not appear again until The Invisible Enemy. Owing to the cost of setting up the TARDIS console room for the filming of only a handful of scenes, a new console set was designed for the following season. Tom Baker and Elizabeth Sladen improvised a number of moments in this story, most notably a scene in Part 4 where the Doctor and Sarah start to walk out of their hiding place and then when they see a mummy, quickly dart back into it. Baker based the scene on a Marx Brothers routine. Several scenes were deleted from the final broadcast. A model shot of the TARDIS landing in the landscape of a barren, alternative 1980 Earth was to be used in Part 2, but director Paddy Russell decided viewers would feel more impact if the first scene of the new Earth was Sarah's reaction as the TARDIS doors opened. 3 scenes of effects such as doors opening and the Doctor materializing from the sarcophagus were removed from the final edit of Part 4 because Russell felt the mixes were not good enough. These scenes were included on the DVD, along with an alternate version of the Poacher being hunted down in Part 2, and a full version of the Osirian rocket explosion. Although the name of Sutekh's race is pronounced Osirian throughout the serial, the scripts and publicity material spell it as Osirian in some places and as Osirian in others. Many fans use the Osirian spelling, as do some reference works such as the Battles in Time collectible card game and the Virgin Missing Adventures sequel novel The Sands of Time. Another member of the Osirian race also appears in the Big Finish Productions audio drama The Bride of Peladon. Cast notes features a guest appearance by Michael Sheard. He was cast by director Paddy Russell without any audition, purely on the recommendation of production assistant Peter Grimwade. Sheard previously featured in The Ark and the Mind of Evil and would later appear in The Invisible Enemy, Castrovalva and Remembrance of the Daleks. Bernard Archard previously played Brajan in The Power of the Daleks. Michael Bilton previously played Tlinny in The Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve. George Tovey was the father of Roberta Tovey, who appeared as Susan in the films Doctor Who and the Daleks and Daleks, Invasion Earth 2150 AD. Gabriel Wolfe reprised his role as Sutekh in the Faction Paradox audio dramas Coming to Dust, The Ship of a Billion Years, Body Politic, Words from Nine Divinities, Ozymandias and the Judgment of Sutekh, from Magic Bullet Productions. He also provided the voice of Sutekh for the comedy sketch Oh Mummy, Sutekh's Story, included on the DVD release of Pyramids of Mars. Wolfe would go on to provide the voice of the Beast in the 2006 episodes The Impossible Planet, and The Satan Pit. He also provided the voice of Governor Rossiter in the Big Finish Productions audio plays arrangements for War on Thicker Than Water. Outside references, the Doctor, Sarah and Lawrence Scarman hide in a priest hole in the Priory. This is an anachronism that even the Doctor comments on, since priest holes were a feature of the Elizabethan era and earlier, and not of Victorian architecture. The puzzle in which Sarah is imprisoned in a tube is a variation of the classic logic puzzle, Knights and Knaves. Broadcast and reception, Paul Cornell, Martin Day, and Keith Topping gave the serial a positive review in the Discontinuity Guide, praising the chilling adversary in some of the conversations. In the television companion, David J. Howe and Stephen James Walker described the first episode as an excellent scene-setter, and the story as near flawless. They wrote that Pyramids of Mars gave the fullest expression of the Gothic horror era and had high production values and a good guest cast. In 2010, Patrick Mulcairn of Radio Times called it a bona fide classic with arguably the most polished production to date, and praised the powerful plot. However, he disliked how UNIT was dismissed in the season, and found minor, amusing quibbles with the plot. Charlie Jane Anders of IO9 described Pyramids of Mars as just a lovely, solid adventure story, highlighting the way the Doctor seemed outmatched, the pace, and Sarah Jane. In a 2010 article, Anders also listed the cliffhanger to the third episode in which the Doctor is forced to confront Sutekh as one of the greatest Doctor Who cliffhangers ever. In a 2014 Doctor Who magazine poll to determine the best Doctor Who stories of all time, readers voted Pyramids of Mars to 8th place. Commercial releases. In print. A novelization of this serial, written by Terrance Dicks, was published by Target Books in December 1976. The novelization contains a substantial prologue giving the history of Sutekh and the Osirians and features an epilogue in which a future Sarah researches the destruction of the Priory and how it was explained. An unabridged reading of the novelization by actor Tom Baker was released on CD in August 2008 by BBC Audiobooks. Home media. The story first came out on VHS and Betamax in an omnibus format in February 1985. It was subsequently released in episodic format in April 1994. It was released on DVD in the United Kingdom on March 1, 2004. It was also released on October 31, 2011 as an extra on the Sarah Jane Adventures Series 4 DVD and Blu-ray box set as a tribute to Elizabeth Sladen who had died earlier in the year. In 2013 it was released on DVD again as part of the Doctor Who, The Doctors Revisited 1-4 box set, alongside the Aztecs, Tomb of the Cybermen and Spearhead from Space. Alongside a documentary on the Fourth Doctor, the disc features the serial put together as a single feature in widescreen format with an introduction from current showrunner Stephen Moffat, as well as its original version. References. External links. Pyramids of Mars at BBC Online, Pyramids of Mars at Doctor Who, A Brief History of Time, Pyramids of Mars at the Doctor Who Reference Guide, Reviews, Pyramids of Mars Reviews at Outpost Gallifrey, Pyramids of Mars Reviews at the Doctor Who Ratings Guide, Target Novelization, Doctor Who and the Pyramids of Mars Reviews at Outpost Gallifrey, Doctor Who and the Pyramids of Mars Reviews at the Doctor Who Ratings Guide, on Target. Doctor Who and the Pyramids of Mars.